Hey everyone, Josh Mabe, NASCAR Minute with Morgan Shepherd. Morgan, how you doing?
Just fine, just working here trying to get ready for Daytona.
So, first question, how did you get started in racing?
Well, I kind of got a late start compared to today's drivers. Today's drivers, they start at 4 and 5 years old. I went to the races and helped some my dirt track friends, Hal Houston, when I was about 15, 16 years old, but I didn't get to really drive a race car until I was 25 years old. But we started off good and won a lot of races.
So, when did you move to Sprint Cup?
When did I move to Sprint Cup?
Yeah.
Well, the names have changed over the years, and in 1980, 81, I ran my first race with our team at Richmond, Virginia, and we sat on the pole and led a lot of the race and ended up running forward. By the time we got to Martinsville, we led, I think, 369 laps of the race and won the race there. So we started off well, but then our team fell apart during the season, and I had to start looking for rides.
Alright, so how did that go? What team did you end up racing with?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
You said you were looking for rides. What ride did you end up getting?
Well, in 82, I ended up with Levi Garrett, Ron Benfield. He was, at that time, going to school to be a doctor. And he was the owner of the team. Buddy Parrott was the crew chief. So I drove for the Levi Garrett team in 1982.
Alright, now what about 1983? Is that when you started your team back up, or what did you do that year?
In 1983, I didn't have a ride. I drove for some different teams during the season. I drove for J.D. Stacy, which Mark Martin had driven for. And 1984, I was still kind of hitchhiking and drove for different teams. I drove for people like Buddy Arrington, Joey Arrington, his son, and matter of fact, we ran the fastest lap at Daytona that Chrysler has ever run. They had a Chrysler, and we qualified at 194 mile an hour, and Chrysler pulled out a race, and so I've got the record for the fastest lap ever for a Chrysler at Daytona Beach. But I drove for different teams that year, and I drove for some more teams, a lot of different people, just whatever ride I could catch, I would drive. And then in 86, I ended up with Jack Beebe, and he wasn't going to run the whole season, and he did. He just ran part of the season, and so we won the race at Atlanta. And then in 87, I got a ride with the Quaker State car, Kenny Bernstein, and drove for them. Larry Reynolds was the crew chief on it. So I've kind of been in and out and didn't really get solid until 1989, and, when I drove for Valvoline, Butch Mock, and Bob Ray Hilly.
So then, when did you start driving for the 21 Wood Brothers?
Well, I drove 2 years after 89 there for Bud Moore, and then Ford kind of placed me with the Wood Brothers there in 92. I drove 4 years for them, and we won another race at Atlanta, and I'd won with for them until 95, and then in 96, I drove for Bushmock, the Remington team in 96, and that was really my last full-time ride, because after that, in 97, I drove some for Richard Jackson, the #1 car, and we come close to winning Atlanta again with that car. We was training him to be a crew chief at that time, and we ran third at Atlanta, but we would have won the race, but we had a clutch problem. We had to push the car off on when we made a pit stop, but we definitely had to face this car.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was just I was trying to call who won the race. I can't get it off my tongue here. But anyway, we come close to winning the race, and I haven't had another full-time ride in the Cup Series since that. Just kind of been in and out.
So then, after that, did you move back to the what was then the Busch Series?
I went back to what?
The Busch Series or the Nationwide Series?
I went into the Truck Series and run some races, and didn't have a sponsor, and never really, had a way to be competitive, and so then we got us a Cup car, and I come back into Cup, and we did some starting parts, and did pretty well with that, but we never did have a sponsor. That's kind of when we, with the Truck Series, is when we put the Jesus logo on the hood of the car, and it's been on ever since. But then I kind of made it into the Busch Series, and I've been there ever since. But it's getting pretty tough. We don't know what we're going to do this year for sure, because we don't have a sponsor yet.
So is the Victory in Jesus, is that one of your sponsors?
No, that's I'm a born again Christian, February 23rd, 1975, and the Jesus logo, we run it, and we have a charity. We've been doing it for 26 years this year. That we help people, and through the race fans, we just kind of advertise the ministry part by putting the Jesus logo on the car.
So and when did you create Shepherd Racing Ventures?
That was I think 3 years ago with Richard Childers. Richard helped me out, and we used his points, and that's how Shepherd Racing Ventures come along. And then we sold it back to him last year, and we got off with a bad start, and had problems at Daytona qualifying, and it just seemed like my whole year, just little freak things would happen, and I had the worst year that I've ever had in racing, with just odd things happening to us. So we're struggling to get our feet back on the ground, and we just hope somebody comes along and sponsors us.
All right, tell me about what was this thing you did at Walgreens a couple years ago?
That was Walmart.
Walmart.
I'm now 71. I was 69 then. We was in Phoenix. No, we was in Vegas. And anyway, my wife and I had went to the Walmart, and we got out of the car to go in, and I turned around and went back to the car for something. She went on in, and just as I was getting out, here come these 3 guys running out of the Walmart, and they had about a half dozen security guys after them, and they come running out across the parking lot, and here come a police car chasing them down, and they coming, I just called him and took him down and twisted his arm behind his back and had him down on the ground, face down, and the police officer thought I was an undercover cop because I had on a camouflage shirt, a vest on, because it just happened to be kind of cool that day. And so anyhow, he jumped out of the car and threw me in handcuffs, and I caught him with my left hand, and I cut the guy, and he cut out after the other guy. And he come back, and he didn't have the other guy with him, but he came back and he said, "Can you hold him a little bit longer?" And I said, "Yeah, he's handcuffed. He ain't going nowhere." And all the security guys were standing there just kind of cheering and giving me the thumbs up. And so then the police officer took over, and I got up, went on in the store, and Cindy and I had done our shopping, and next thing I know, the next day, well, that night I was on Sirius radio being interviewed from everywhere, and next day the TV cameras was hunting me down, and they had a picture of our car with the Big Jesus logo on the front of it, on the front page of the sports in Vegas. And so it was a God thing, because obviously he did the work through me, because you're not going to find many 69-year-old guys that could run a teenager down and tackle him and handcuff him.
Yeah. So, how do you continue to race without a sponsor?
Well, we don't run no further than what the money allows, whatever the race pays. That's why we can't run the whole race a lot of times. Sometimes we get to, but we operate on what we're taking in. And right now, with the new rules that NASCAR's made, it's hard for us to get everything prepared because they've got so many changes, and of course that takes money, and we definitely got to have a sponsor here before we can really go racing.
So, did you start in park this year, or did you run the full races?
I started the park some of the races, and some of them I ran the whole race.
All right, and you also ran in the 21 for Richard Childress, right?
Well, that was his car number. It was. I ran a couple races with him, but we just used his car number.
So was it a Morgan Shepherd owned car, or was it a Richard Childress owned car?
We actually, I think, ran maybe 2 races with Richard's car, but it's Morgan Shepherd's cars.
Right. So, going into this year, or wait, first of all, where's your shop? Where's your shop located?
It's in Conover, North Carolina. It's about 50 miles kind of north of Charlotte. We're off Interstate 40.
So how many people do you have working at Shepherd Racing?
Well, we just have 2 guys right now that's working for us, and we're just kind of trying to hold on until we see what happens here.
And what about your pit crew? Who supplies the pit crew then if you only have 2 guys?
Well, what we do is when we get to the racetrack, there's guys that you can hire that a lot of them are cut guys, and they do part-time work, and so we'll get in a race, we'll hire a pit crew, and it usually costs somewhere between $1,800 and a little over $2,000 to hire a pit crew.
Well, Morgan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Happy New Year to you.
You too. Good luck.
Thank you.
That is Morgan Shepherd, driver of the number 89 car in the NASCAR Nationwide Series and owner of Shepherd Racing Ventures.